Hey ladies, happy Sunday. How are you ladies doing? I missed you guys. I missed you guys last week. How are you guys doing? I hope you had an amazing week. Happy Sunday. I am happy to be back. Whew, I know I did a blog last week, a blog post last week. Let me tell you, I got so much feedback from that blog. I'm like, it really blessed a lot of people. A lot of people talked about how heartfelt it was, and how it just gave them a sense of hope. And like, I don't know, it felt good to get that feedback. I get it sometimes, but for some reason, I got a lot of feedback on this particular post. So I'm really thankful. I'm really trying to do things the way God envisions or gives me the vision to do it. So sometimes it's not easy because you want to do other things, but God is like, nope, do it this way. And so I'm really trying to stay the course and do things the way that He has mapped it out for me to do it. So, and it's working out. It's working out little by little. I'm getting more subscribers. Interestingly enough, right before I recorded this video, I don't even know who this guy is. He subscribed to my channel, and he gave me a shout out on his channel, which is kind of weird. I don't even know who he is. It's just amazing how God works. But anyway, as you guys can see, I got the community tab, I think about a week or two ago. And I'm really excited about that. That was something I was not expecting. What I like about having that tab, and I kind of mentioned this in the post, but I'm just going to reiterate it. But what I like about having that tab is that I feel like a lot of people okay, here's the thing with YouTube, a lot of times I don't know who's subscribing to my channel. Everybody doesn't reveal that they're subscribing. They'll just subscribe. So there's a lot of people I know that subscribe and a lot of people I don't know. So I don't know how many people are aware of the fact that I have a women's empowerment brand. Excuse me, that I'm not just a YouTube content creator, right? So what I like about having this tab is that it allows everything, it makes the brand a little bit more cohesive. So now that YouTube viewers, they can now have the ability to look at blog posts or go on the website and look at my book or merchandise or blog interviews. So I feel like it's going to bring a little bit more cohesiveness to the brand. It's a really good tool, and if you use it effectively, I think it can work really well for you. And so I'm just, learning how to use it. I probably won't use it too often, but here and there I am going to use it because it is a really good tool to kind of connect with your viewers, but also to bring a level of cohesiveness to the brand. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you guys had an amazing week. I had an interesting week. It wasn't necessarily good. It wasn't bad. I would probably say it was a challenging week. So the first thing, my phone, it was working properly, but my power button, oh my God, I struggled with it for probably about a good week or so. It started out gradually, the phone wouldn't come on, and then it would be like I would be holding the button for like 10-15 minutes for it to come on. Then I realized if I plugged the charger in, it would come on. It was just all kind of crazy stuff. I had to like kind of work around. I was able to get through the week, but I thought to myself, I have insurance on the phone, just get another phone. So that's what I ended up doing. I got the same exact phone. The way the insurance works is, I guess it's kind of similar to like medical insurance. You pay a deductible. I paid like $49. I had to send back the old phone, get the new one, but it's the same exact phone, same model and everything, just a brand new phone. So that was one of my dilemmas. That was a little crazy. And then I had like a small leak in my bathroom. I could not for the life of me figure out where the water was coming from. So I put in a maintenance request. They came out. It took them until Friday to get it resolved. It was a little nerve wracking, but the thing about it is it was a leak, but it wasn't like catastrophic. So as you guys know, I work a 9-to-5 job. So I still continue to go to work, because I wasn't going to sit at home and babysit a leak. Once I put in a maintenance request, they came out, they assessed it. I felt like if they weren't making a big deal out of it, neither was I. I continued to put towels down. It wasn't like I said, it wasn't horrible, but I felt like if it got worse and I didn't say anything, it could have become catastrophic. So it was a little nerve wracking. I would be, I would be on my way home from work and be like, oh my God, am I going to come home? My place is flooded or whatever. And it never became any of that. Like I said, I continued to put towels down. I would come home every evening or whatever and just mop and whatever water was down. And like I said, it wasn't horrible, but I felt like in order to prevent it from getting horrible, then I needed to do something. But they fixed it. It was something to do with the faucet or face bowl in my bathroom. And they basically gutted it up, put a whole new thing in there, and I'm good to go now. So I'm happy. It was a little nerve-wracking, a little challenging, but we're all good. I'm back in business, and I'm excited to be here today with you guys. So, I'm sorry, I'm going to get right into the message. So today the message is titled The Beauty of Spiritual Manna. The Beauty of Spiritual Manna. I have to tell you guys, this was not the message that I planned on doing. I had a whole different message that I was going to do. And literally at the last minute, like yesterday, I got this message in my spirit. And sometimes when I get a message and it's not really anything flowing, I felt like I could have went forward with the other message. And I'm not going to go into what that message was because I feel like at some point down the line, I probably can still do that message. But this is what God put in my spirit yesterday. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to go with for today. The title of the message, once again, is The Beauty of Spiritual Manna. Now, let me tell you, I like to tell you guys what prompted me to do a specific video or post. So I'm going to tell you about a scenario, but I'm not going to go into specifics about the scenario because I don't exactly know who all watches my videos. And so I don't want to go into specifics, but I will give you a general overview so you can kind of get a sense of why I decided to do this particular message on today. So I had a situation where I knew something was going to occur. I knew something was going to happen. And I, in my mind, had started to figure out what my responses were going to be depending on how this scenario played out. I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. So I had already, you know how like you would just be like, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. So I had already created like these this sounds kind of weird, but I had created responses in advance depending on what happened in the scenario. Okay. So the scenario happened and it legit played out exactly the way that I thought it was going to play out. I had already in my mind set up a response of what I was going to do if this happened. Immediately, I'm not talking about a day, I'm not talking about 5 hours, I'm talking immediately. God hit me in my spirit to say, don't do what I was planning on doing or what my response was going to be, to not do that. And God started to reveal to me why not to respond that way. And that is the beauty of spiritual manna. The Bible says we don't live on bread alone. So we have to have spiritual food. We have to feed our spirits. And one of the things that I realized is that spiritual food is when the children of Israel God had freed them from Pharaoh, and they were not quite at the promised land. They were kind of like in this transition period. So they weren't in bondage anymore, and they weren't in the promised land. They were kind of in this holding pattern. They were in this in-between phase as they transition into the promised land. The problem with the children of Israel is that God was providing manna for them. In this case, it was physical food. What I'm speaking about is spiritual manna. I'm speaking about wisdom, God's wisdom specifically, while you wait to transition into that next season, into that next space in your life. And so oftentimes what I believe is that we have a tendency to block, to mess up, to jack up our own blessings because we don't understand the significance and the beauty of spiritual manna. Just like you feed your body, you need to feed your spirit. You need to feed your soul. You need to feed not just your physical body. You need God's wisdom in order to figure out how to navigate and how to do this thing called life. The Bible says, in all you're getting, to get understanding, it says the key thing, the principal thing is wisdom. It even says that wisdom is more valuable than money, than coins, than gold. Wisdom is the thing that you should be after, not money, not things, not possessions, wisdom. And so when I had this scenario, God gave me the wisdom to know not to respond, or give me the wisdom to know to not respond in the way that I was going to respond. And I think the reason he did that, that's what I call spiritual manna. That is him saying, okay, you're not at the promised land yet. However, you're so close, you're pretty much there. If you respond the way you want to respond, guess what's going to happen? You're going to block your own blessing. And just like the children of Israel, they were supposed to get to the promised land, within a few days? It took them 40 years. 40 40 years to get to the promised land. And here's the thing, many of them didn't even make it into the promised land. So they just wandered. They just went in circles. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think what we don't understand, there are two systems, right? There's God's system, there's the world system. And what I've learned is that you cannot mesh the two. You cannot mesh the two. You cannot you cannot operate under God's system and expect the world to bless you, and vice versa. You can't operate in the world system and expect God to bless you. The Bible says no man can serve two masters. He'll either love one or he'll hate the other. It also says that if you're friends with the world, you're enemies with God. So the thing about it is light and darkness cannot coexist. You either operating in his system and you're getting his blessings and you're doing it his way, or you operating in the world system, you getting their stuff and you're doing it their way. You cannot mesh the two together. And the reason I want to emphasize that is because the spiritual manna that I'm speaking about, you can get wisdom. But if it's not God's wisdom, it's not going to help you in God's system. I see too many people, you want to do God's stuff, but you still want to have the blessings of the world and the things of the world. You can't do that. The Bible says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. You have to feed your mind. Spiritual manna, spiritual wisdom, godly wisdom. Let me tell you this. I'm going to give you another scenario since I didn't go into specifics about my scenario. Let's say, for example, I'm going to use a relationship because a lot of you guys can relate to this. Let's say you're in a relationship with a guy, and dude, you've been with him for about 5 years, right? And dude got a lot of potential. You supporting him. He don't have a regular 9 to 5. Let's say he working on his dream or his passion, and he getting stuff together, but it's taking a minute. Sometimes it takes a while to get your dreams together and get everything lined up. And you being patient, you see all the potential in him. You waiting on him, blah, 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 blah. You supporting him while he do his thing. And then he come to you and say, hey, babe, I got this opportunity. I don't know if it's going to yield much or it's going to be fruitful, but hey, this guy approached me and it looks like it might be finally getting some doors opened up and you happy. But you basically telling me like, I'm happy for you, babe, but I've been with you for 5 years, and I'm getting tired. I'm doing, I'm pulling all the, I'm carrying all the weight in the relationship. We go out, we do stuff. I'm paying for everything. I'm supporting you. I'm behind you. But you like, I'm tired. If this don't open up, I'm out. I'm out the door. And dude is like, man, babe, this might be the opportunity. So let's say he ends up talking to the guy, whoever approached him or whatever, and they tell him, you got a lot of potential. We're not going to pull the strings just yet. But in a year or two, if you keep doing what you're doing, keep working with us, eventually, you'll get your breakthrough or whatever. You go back and he goes back and tells you this. And then you like, man, I'm out. I done supported you. This ain't yielded nothing, blah, blah, blah. But what we fail to realize is that man probably more than likely is in a transition period. And oftentimes we willing to run and pull the cord so quick. We don't get before God. We don't get the wisdom. We don't get the spiritual manna that we need in our lives so we can know how to proceed forward. And that's what the children of Israel did. God was providing for them physical manna. He was sustaining them. It was only supposed to be for a few days. He was sustaining them until they got to the promised land. But they didn't have the wisdom to understand that this was not a permanent place. This was a temporary place. And oftentimes we make moves and we go ahead of God and we don't sit before him and really seek the wisdom, his wisdom specifically, to know how to move forward. And then we jack up and we mess up our own blessings. You right there at the promised land. And all you got to do is sit before him. And that's the beauty of spiritual manna, because now you got the wisdom and the revelation on how to move. And we so quick to go ahead and to rush to decisions and make quick judgments. So let's say fast forward the same dude that you was with for 5 years. You cut the cord because it didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen. Let's say fast forward 2 years. Everything it blew up, everything he worked on, you stood behind him for 5 years. You was by his side. Now he got another woman. He married, so forth and so on. He living his best life. Not to say you living a bad life, but now you're not in a position to reap the benefits of all the labor and all the hard work you put in. Now somebody else comes behind you. And guess what? They get to reap the benefits of what you sowed. You sowed into this man. You put all this time, this energy, and because you were impatient and because you didn't seek spiritual manna, you didn't seek the wisdom of God and how to move forward and how to handle it and how to deal with it. Much like the children of Israel, you wandered in the wilderness, and when it was time to make it into the promised land, much like most of them, guess what happened? You don't get the promises. You don't get to benefit from the blessing. Some other woman comes in because she has the wisdom to understand this man is on something. He's doing some great things, and she gets to benefit from all the hard work you put in, the blood, the sweat, and the tears in that relationship because you didn't have the wisdom to understand just how close you were to the promised land. And then let me tell you this. Here's the interesting thing. Here's the caveat. Most of those people didn't go and make it into the promised land. Why? Because they were murmuring and complaining. They could not wrap their heads around the fact that God would rescue them from Pharaoh and put them in a position, a holding pattern where he provided for them and while they wait to transition into the promised land. Most of them didn't even make it into the promised land. And here's the other thing. The few that did make it into the promised land, guess what happened when they got there? There were giants in the land, and they came out and ran out. It was like, they're giants in the land, and they saw themselves as grasshoppers. Let me tell you the other beautiful thing about the blessings and the beauty of spiritual manna, of God's wisdom. The beauty of it is that when he has you in that holding pattern, you're not in bondage, you're not quite at the promised land, you're in that transition period. The beauty of the whole thing of the beauty of spiritual manna is God prepares you. He knows when you get to the promised land, there are going to be giants. You think the enemy, you think the devil ain't going to have his people there to try to intimidate you? The Bible says to go in and possess the land. That's what this brand is about. Kata Lambano is to take it by force. God knows when you get over into the promised land, whatever he's promised for you and for your life, when you get there, he knows the devil going to have his people there. And he don't want you to be like the children of Israel and see yourself as a grasshopper. He wants you to know that you deserve it. It's for you. He wouldn't have given it to you if it wasn't for you. And you got to go in and possess the land. And you cannot allow a giant or whoever the devil got in there trying to intimidate you to make you feel like you're not worthy of the blessing. You are worthy of the blessing. So the key is the beauty of spiritual manna is that you get God's wisdom while you sit in the holding pattern, the transition period, while you're waiting to go into your promised land. You get his wisdom, his insight, and you learn how to navigate and how to do this thing life until you step over into the promised land. The other beautiful thing about spiritual manna is that he prepares you so that when you transition, you get into the promised land, you know that you're worthy and you go in and you take it by force because you know that this is where God has positioned you and this is where God has placed you, and ain't no devil and HE double hockey sticks can take that away. Lastly, I want to say this. Please understand, and I really want to just really talk about this really quickly. My promised land is not going to look like your promised land and vice versa, right? We have a tendency, God is setting things up masterfully, beautifully, getting you ready to transition you into your promised land, what he has promised you. Remember the guys with the talents? Everybody didn't have the same talent. You have to learn what the promises are for your life. Because what happens is sometimes, because you don't understand what God has promised for your life, you so busy looking at somebody else's life, you become discouraged. And God is like, no, this is where I want you. This is the promise I have for you. Please stay in your own lane. Stay connected to God. Get the spiritual manna that you need. Get the godly wisdom that you need for your journey. Because if you start comparing and contrasting, you will forever be disappointed. There's always going to be somebody that's going to have more than you. There's always going to be somebody that has less. That's why you have to stay in alignment with God so that you understand the proportion of your blessing and what he's doing for you. I hope and pray that this message has blessed you. I pray that it has encouraged you. There is a beauty about being in a transition period and allowing God to feed you the spiritual manna, the wisdom, the insight that you need as you await his promises and you make it and you transition over into the promised land. I love you. I love you. I love you guys with the love of Jesus Christ. I pray that you guys have an awesome and amazing week until we meet again. You know the drill, ladies. Kata lambano it. Peace out.